3 days later, we were on a plane to Thailand for a working honeymoon for Bloodsport 2. So, I mean, our whole lives have been production,
Right.
relationship.
Right.
And so,
Hi, and welcome to Kelly, where we talk about life, your life and my life. Through Kelly, we hope to inspire. I have Amanda Llewellyn on the show today. She is a filmmaker. Her and her husband, Wes. Wes is in the room, not on camera today, but he is in the room with us. So we'll talk about you, Wes. So Amanda's here to join us and talk about filmmaking and basically your plight in the film industry and give some good gold nuggets on filmmaking.
coolio.
So give us a little bit of your history.
My history. Well, I was born in Florida, and I had a mother who was bored out of her mind, and so she volunteered in the local elementary and high schools, and she wrote, produced, and directed children's plays. And so from the time I was in the first grade, we were doing the spring musical. And so I became very theatrically adroit, everything from sewing costumes to painting scenery and stuff like that. And so I went to Florida State, got a bachelor's degree in theater, and then moved to Orlando because, I didn't want to go to New York or anything like that. It was way scary. And so I moved to Orlando, and I started working there in the local entertainment scene, worked at Disney, was a parade dancer. A twist of fate, I became an impromptu Disney princess. And I know, full-on coach, yes. And then after that, actually during that time, I had been doing makeup artistry since I was in high school, I guess. And what ended up happening was every time I got into a theatrical show, I would end up designing everybody's makeup and fixing their hair and stuff like that. Went to cosmetology school and just kind of continued in that particular end of the industry. So I did hair and makeup for about 20 years, I guess.
Wow.
And became a wig master. I can make them, I can style them, I can, worked in the Disney wig room. God love those ladies. They were awesome. No, seriously, I learned so much. I learned so much craft, in all of my formative years, so that when I finally get this bizarre phone call from this guy, actually it was a woman in Louisiana. She was production coordinating this little film, and Michael Ironside and Robert Davi were going to be in the picture. It was a little action picture, and they needed somebody who could do makeup and understood hair pieces. And the Joe Blasco School in Orlando had recommended me.
Wow.
Because I used to take their students and torture them at the Civic Theater in Central Florida. So that all said, that was my first full-on movie from beginning to end. I had actually day checked on Parenthood when it was in town. I'd become a union makeup artist, and so I day checked a couple of days on that. But I mean, I knew pretty quickly after being on my first set that I probably wouldn't stay in the hair and makeup department, just because I had a much bigger vision. How is this all really put together?
Right.
But what was truly great about doing that job was the fact that I got paid to learn.
Right.
I could sit in Video Village. I could listen to people talk. I could listen to the director and the producers and how they interacted with each other, understood what a script supervisor did, understood how it was put together. And so
you started listening and started learning.
Oh, heck yeah. But I had always kind of had my focus on that almost from the very, very beginning. I knew that at some point there was going to be that break. Well, I met my darling Mr. Wes on a little action picture in Louisiana. On my way to California, I had already given up my apartment in Orlando. I had everything in storage. It was my last movie down south. I was going to move to LA. Already had a roommate and everything, and lived up in Simi Valley. And so I moved out, and I would say like a month or so later, it was the '94 earthquake,
Yeah.
and all hell broke loose, and nobody was working for like 3 months. So I did a lot of really odd jobs, including earthquake demolition and stuff like that. But along that year, Wes and I decided that we were a thing, and we got married at the end of that year. And 3 days later, we were on a plane to Thailand for a working honeymoon for Bloodsport 2. So, I mean, our whole lives have been production,
Right.
relationship.
Right.
And so
But people say all the time you shouldn't work with your spouse, and I totally
they?
I know, right? Right? And I really always thought that until Diego and I got married, and I mean, it keeps you bonded because you have things to talk about. You have. And especially in this industry, because you're always creating, and I think the happiest people in the world are creators. So, what are some of the projects that you've worked on? And I mean, you guys do amazing work. Everything that I've ever seen of your, I host the screening rooms a lot at events, and sound is always an issue. And you guys, your stuff it's beautiful. Even the stuff that you've done on your, just completely on your own, it's beautiful. You did a thing for the 48-hour film project, and
168 hour.
Okay, 168 hour.
Yeah.
Okay, but it's lovely. So, talk about some of the projects that you've.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I did a lot of stuff, as a crew member. And then Wes had actually been doing faith-based work for a very long time. And so in 1999, we did our own faith-based movie. It was called The Moment After. We did it for under $100,000, if you can believe that. We shot on Super 16, so we actually had to have film and processing along with all of that ridiculously low budget. And a guy named Kevin Downs.
And it's so funny that you say ridiculously low budget, because a lot of people would be like, I would love to have $100,000 just to make a film, But it really is low.
Well, not only that, but when you consider the cost of the film and processing, and then doing that.
It's a lot.
Telecine and all that other. My goodness, that was like a good third of our budget, right there. So that was a little movie that could, and we've been told by other people that do faith-based projects that was kind of an inspiration to them, because they thought, if they could make a movie that well on that kind of a budget, then why can't we? And Alex Kendrick had said that to Wes.
Right.
And so that was really their impetus to try again after Flywheel.
And most of everything that you guys do is faith-based, right? Or
it's funny. I started in a completely secular environment. It wasn't until I met that guy that we started doing faith-based stuff together. But listen, it's the door that is open. And because that door was open, we walked through that door. And I think that there have been a lot of blessings to us because of that. That's just my, our personal philosophy on that. But then we did 12 and a half years of dramatic reenactments for a Christian TV talk show. Sid Roth, The Supernatural, and
you've had some of my students on there.
It was funny. It was funny because I guess it was one day we were shooting in the studio, and somebody was casually remarking to another actor, it was two actors talking. They said, "Well, everybody knows that you're not really a serious actor in Atlanta unless you've been on The Supernatural." And I thought to myself, that is hilarious, because, and then the other thing that we got too was, you guys have got the most professional set in town. And we're like, excuse me, I don't, we're tiny. But I think what it was that we really tried to care about the people that walked through our door.
Yeah.
And that was always our goal. Our first thing was, people are the most valuable asset that you have on your set. And the money comes second.
Yeah.
The most valuable asset is
and
the
thing
person that walks
is
through the
when
door.
you start to really know people and connect with people, those people circle through your life forever. So if you treat them well, they're going to circle back. and especially if you have a project that's, maybe it's a passion piece and you don't have a strong budget for it, people will still step up to the plate. To be a part of your project if they know you're doing good work and you're good to them.
Yes, and I guess that's been kind of interesting for us, because we just because of the longevity that we had in Los Angeles, we moved to Atlanta. Didn't really understand why we were moving. We felt that was a sort of a supernatural call for us, from the Lord to do that. And so we did, out of obedience, and we've been amazingly blessed and become very, very rich in friends and relationships, and did some really, really good work.
Where do people find your work? And what you guys do?
That's easy. So because we have such a crazy last name with 4 L's, we very cleverly called ourselves 4L Films. And so if they go to the number 4, the letter L, films.com, they can look at our work and peruse our website and
what's in
contact us.
What is in the future for you guys? I know you've got a move coming up.
The future.
And you talked a little bit about moving, because you guys aren't doing so much of the Sid Roth thing anymore.
We rolled off of Sid. It was time. Everybody was kind of going in different directions. Wes had directed another feature up in North Georgia earlier this year, and so we're kind of taking a writing sabbatical. We're calling it a creativity sabbatical, really, because I've got some projects. I'm trying to develop a reality show. I've got a couple of other scripted shows I want to do, and I'm trying to do a spec script. And so, there's a lot of writing for me to do, and I really enjoy that. And so being in the environment that we're going to go into, it's nice and quiet, it's in the country, which will probably last like 5 minutes. But, because for some reason, Wes and I attract stuff.
Anytime you're around the arts, it gets chaotic. You'll build chaos. It'll come.
Yeah, no, totally. Totally. But it's funny because once again, the moment you start connecting with people, and we already met somebody down there who actually does production. So it's like, well, that's kind of unusual for a teeny tiny little town.
But they're everywhere. You every day I'm in a new environment and find somebody new in my environment that's right here with me. Some advice you can give to an upcoming filmmaker. And guys, I want to say that Wes and Amanda, they're very hands-on. You always show up at events and give just really good information. So I will say that you are an industry angel to reach out to.
I'm a mother, darling.
I'm
a mother.
Yes. If you have questions, you're normally pretty open. That doesn't mean to bog her down and
hey,
whatever.
listen, if you want to drop an email, please do that. That does not bother me. I'm really pretty good about emails, and we'll provide answers to thoughtful questions.
That's the thing. Yeah, she will tell you when your question is not thoughtful. She's very honest. So some information to give to an upcoming filmmaker. Something that you've learned. You said that you've learned a lesson recently.
Yes, I have. I've heard this expression a lot. I want people to be enthusiastic about the job more than I need experience. And that has just got to be the worst advice I think I've ever heard in my whole life. I would much prefer to pay a professional who is so professional that they are coming in to do that job, regardless as their level of excitement about your project. I know that they're going to be able to do the job and do it well. And if I, as a producer, am able to work with them, collaborate with them, and congratulate them on work well done, they will be enthusiastic.
Yes.
So I much prefer to have the skill first, and then engender the
And
enthusiasm on set.
Well, somebody who's working in this profession long term, it eventually does become work to you. Like people used to always tell me, well, you're so lucky you get to live your passion. I'm like, well, my passion feels like an awful lot of work because it does become work. It does become work.
Well, it's kind of like those people who don't play golf professionally.
Right.
Okay. In other words, they're trying to beat themselves at their own game. This is something I learned doing dinner theater. How many weeks can you do Sound of Music, right, as the same nun?
Right.
2 shows a week.
Right.
Well, two shows a day. So that's the 8 shows a week. You know. So how do you keep it fresh? Because that person who comes in to see you, that's the first time they're going to see you. So you better make it fresh. And so it was a mind trick that I would do. How am I going to top my last performance? What am I going to do to connect with my audience this time? It's the same thing when it comes down to producing. What interesting thing can I find out of the same job for this episode, for this time? What are those new things that I might want to add? Or who's the new person that I want to connect with? Or what's the new relationship? Or how can I tell this story better? And so it becomes a challenge to yourself to top your last performance.
Yeah.
And if you do that, it's always fresh.
Yeah, love that. Well, Well, thank you so much for being here with us and gracing our audience. I've been wanting to have you on for a long time. Wes, you can come back and sit here on your own.
Yes, he can. And he's even wearing a lovely shirt today, too.
We didn't do it today, but thank you guys. We hope this segment educates and inspires you.